thank you for joining us, everyone. My name is Paul Gubbins. I work for a global CTV ad server called Publica. We help streaming publishers and TV manufacturers in two key areas. Firstly, we enable them to grow their programmatic advertising revenues. And secondly, we help them to create linear-like TV ad breaks so they can offer their advertisers more controls around areas such as frequency management, and they can build ad breaks that don't bombard their streaming audiences with the same ads back to back in the same ad pods. But enough about me. Hello, Katie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good.
Sun's out, that always improves things, doesn't it?
Indeed. I think it's been just over a year, right, since we were sat on this very stage at Advertising Week last year, talking about the growth of addressable television in Europe. What, from your point of view, have been some of the highlights over the last 12 months?
So I'll do a quick intro first of all. So I run the ad sales team for the UK and Ireland and a bit of international. And Warner Brothers Discovery is a kind of relatively new company. I think when we first talked here last year, we'd been a newly merged company for about 3 weeks or something. So the ambition of Warner Brothers Discovery, the reason for the merger, is that we can kind of see the whole streaming industry consolidating over time, and our ambition is to be one of the top three. So that would be Netflix, Disney, and us. And so, you know, we've got a lot of ambition in this area, but I think, as I said last time, it's quite complex, it's incredibly fragmented. We've kind of learned quite a lot by trying to do different things. And kind of where we've landed is you just need one really premium product. So that's why we're now backing Max outside of the UK. Max will come to the UK in the next few years, rather than having lots of different products, which is what we had for a while. I guess the highlights in that kind of 12 months are not as many as we would like. Definitely there is more budget. And that budget is coming from a variety of different places. So, you know, different agencies, different clients. That budget might be coming from traditional AV, or it might be coming from digital and social. And certainly Elon Musk is helping us out a little bit on that kind of front. But I think the area which we really need sort of more progress on is the measurement piece. And there hasn't really been any progress there, which is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, when we talk about measurement, we mean TV audience measurement, right?
Yeah, we mean that kind of, because, well, I guess that comes on to one of the things we were going to have a little chat about, which is your definition of... Go on.
Okay.
Ask me the question.
We have prepped this, I promise. Right, so there's lots of talk in the industry at the moment around what the definition of television content is. Does it have to be professionally produced? Does it have to originate from a broadcaster? Or can it be user generated? If you watch it on a television set, does that mean that it's television content? I mean, what's your understanding of that debate, Katie?
I mean, there are two views, aren't there, really, which is one, our industry view, and I have to say, as kind of an old school TV buyer, which is where I originated, I think I agree with Barb and the Barb definition now of TV-like content, so it being professionally produced, of a certain quality. I think whether consumers entirely are aligned with that, I think they are. You know, I think they absolutely can differentiate between something that's cost millions of pounds to make, like White Lotus, and something that someone's making in their bedroom, right? I mean, there is a difference to that, and there's a role for both, but they certainly understand the costs attached to that more premium content. And, you know, for brands, mostly you would want to be associated, you know, to a certain extent with, you know, more sort of premium content.
So what we're saying in theory is TV audiences aren't sat at home saying, should we watch some AVOD content?
No, they're definitely not saying that.
Should we watch some SVOD? Should we watch some TVOD? What about some fast maybe? For them, fundamentally, if it's on the big screen, it's television content. But those on the buy side have to plan, buy and measure it slightly differently, because there's still no holistic way for agencies and DSPs to manage things like frequency or audience measurement across different video content, right, served on televisions.
Yeah, and fundamentally for advertisers and media agencies, the issue is that certainly within certain audience demos, upmarkets, youngs, traditional linear is declining at differing rates, but it is declining. that environment is still right, but that viewing is now happening not in a linear scheduled channel anymore. It's happening, on a SVOD, AVOD, wherever it might be.
Yeah.
So but you want to be able to plan your campaign across all of that to sort of see genuinely how effective and how efficient your budget's been, and that you're not bombarding. As you said, it's about frequency and making sure that you're giving people a good experience, and you're not wasting money fundamentally as an advertiser. So that's why having that definition is quite important on our side, because then it is about how you can then help advertisers and agencies and ourselves to prove who you've actually reached, how many times. That's where we need to get to, right?
Yeah, fair enough. So you work for one of the biggest streaming services in the world now, right? Post-merger and everything.
Yeah.
What types of budgets moving into addressable TV? I know you and I debate this a lot, whether or not it's just all of us in this room trying to migrate traditional TV budgets into addressable, or if in theory it's new budgets entering television for the very first time. Can you shed some light on where the ad spend is actually coming from?
Yeah, well, it's coming from a combination of those, which is why there's a decent sized opportunity, right? So as I just said, there's a lot of traditional kind of TV linear budgets who are looking to extend those campaigns because, for certain audiences, that's where you're going to find people.
Yeah.
But there are also clients who might have, stopped advertising on TV for years because actually they need to be much more targeted. They've got smaller budgets, and these are still premium products. When you think about sort of groups like Diageo, they've got multiple booze brands.
Yep.
Not all of those brands can have an AV sized budget, right? But if you can start targeting more effectively, you can still reach the right people. So there's that, and then there's the genuinely new to TV advertisers. So, and actually, historically, Sky, who are one of our big partners, have been quite good at bringing those on via AdSmart.
Yep.
And now CTV can kind of grow that even more, basically.
So we're talking about the smaller, maybe direct consumer, local search advertisers, display advertisers that might have a £10,000 or £15,000 budget. They've got access to a demand side platform, and for the first time they can get their ads onto the biggest screen in the living room.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe beforehand, lots of those types of advertisers would have been locked out of traditional linear TV.
Yeah, because of the size of their budget.
Yeah, and
I think the only thing we need to be really careful of is quality control of ads. So, you can't have an ad that's, you need to have the right quality of ad to appear in that environment. Yeah. So that, there's work we need to do there. But fundamentally, yes, it's about opening up that opportunity to a lot more advertisers.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. And when it comes to data and agencies, advertisers thinking about spending more in CTV environments, what types of data now could an agency potentially target when it comes to CTV ad campaigns at a high level?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot more work done in this area as well. There isn't as much data as we'd like, and I think there are a lot of people talking about data incorrectly. Most of the data we have about CTV is not about individuals, it's device data.
Yep.
So it could be anyone in that household who happens to be watching that. So there's some issues there. I think the future will be about fusing panel and device data, because that's where you get that individual element from. But there's still a lot of challenges there, and also we need to kind of agree as an industry on some common taxonomies, or because most CTV publishers on their own don't have a massive amount of scale. So if you're trying to plan and buy across multiple publishers, which you will be at the moment, it's incredibly difficult to just kind of plan that in a way uniformly, because everyone's using different kind of code. It's just, we need to sort that out, to be honest with you.
And I think that's, without getting too geeky, one of the things that the IB Tech Lab have done a great job of recently is introducing OpenRTB 2.6, and that enables those on both the buy and sell sides of programmatic CTV to transact in the same way. So for the first time in CTV, you can actually start targeting things like particular slot within the ad pod. You can ensure that your ads aren't served back to back with your competitors. All of the things that have been available to traditional TV advertisers for the last 20 plus years are now increasingly available also in CTV streaming environments.
Yeah, but if you want to, yes, that's absolutely right. But if you want to sort of target, by genre, or, that's the bit that we need to sort out as well. Yeah. So yes, the planning in terms of, as you say, the position in your break or competitive and all the good things that TV does really, really well. we're getting there with that
Yeah.
on CTV, but we need some more commonalities around some of those, the way that we're defining, the kind of content that people can buy into, or yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And from an agency point of view, I mean, you speak to lots of the agencies, the holding co's, they're all trying to increase their ad spend in CTV. What are some of the blockers, or what have been some of the blockers? Measurement aside, are there other challenges that they're grappling with at the moment when it comes to investing their ad spend?
I think it is about scale.
Okay.
Still, there is a scale issue on an individual basis, so that can make it, I'm so glad I'm not a media agency buyer now. When I was, that back in it's a long time ago.
Wasn't that long?
Yeah, well, we only had a few TV channels to buy from, right? And life was pretty simple. Didn't have mobile phones. It was really nice. It's so hard for people for buyers now, and they can't physically keep on top of everything.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to do there, I think, still, in terms of making advertisers and agencies comfortable and confident about what CTV has to offer and how to access it.
No, that's a fair point. And I think we hear the scale issue come up quite a lot when we talk about CTV in the industry. One of the areas that I'm hopeful for is TV manufacturers are increasingly becoming advertising businesses. So they're making it very, very easy now for all of us as TV audiences to find AVOD and fast apps on their televisions. So several years ago, my mum or my nan would have really struggled to find an AVOD or fast app because you had to get the remote control and go into 4 pages on the TV menu. That's no longer the case. Discovery is going to become very intuitive on smart TVs. So the search capabilities that we've been used to in desktop and mobile app stores is very much now coming to TVs, because those TV manufacturers are building very scaled ad offerings. And that's going to...
voice, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
voice is a massive piece of it. But, from a publisher perspective, though, all of this, it's, this is a massive area of kind of stress and concern at the moment, because it's about ensuring that you have the right level of prominence.
Yep.
And where those things used to be done in kind of a very set and pre-agreed way. Obviously, the media bill is going to kind of look at this, but it's a little bit of the Wild West out there.
Yeah.
So it just makes the old business models that were quite, everyone's been working the same way for a long time, and everyone knows how to engage. That's all been ripped up, and we're recreating those, and it's hard, and it's hard for quality publishers who spend a lot of money on content, because sometimes it feels a bit unfair. But,
you mean when it comes to the discovery of their services?
Yeah.
So you turn on
Yeah.
the television, and now there could be several hundred different apps,
Yeah.
and these apps are all constantly trying to figure out how do they make sure that they're in the consideration set of the
Yeah.
audience that's literally flicking through all of those.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And what about things like frequency? So we've touched upon measurement, we've touched upon scale, but again, lots of people are always so hung up on this issue of frequency management in CTV. Is that something that's been fixed? Is it something that's being fixed? Or if somebody works with the services that you sell into market, can you help agencies manage things like frequency in CTV?
You absolutely, you absolutely can, and obviously,
Yep.
with the help of a tool like yours, you can. But when you are reliant on multiple demand sources, which
Yep.
someone like we only have a small sales team. We work with a number of SSPs. Still, ads can get through that you might, and we've had a couple of situations like around Christmas where we had a bit of a nightmare, that we had a direct campaign that was for 1 second length, and then there was a programmatic campaign that was for a different second length.
Yep.
So it didn't get spotted, so then you're running effectively the same campaign back to back, right, which is a complete disaster. So it is still an issue that we're all trying to solve, for sure. And there's a couple of, there's loads of different things that we're working on at the moment that will sort that out. But I think, never underestimate, again, on our side, I'm making it sound like, I do feel sorry for myself. It's really complicated. We have to put in place a lot of different partners, different tools to just try and produce this thing that looks like a linear ad break that's really easy to do. That all of that stuff works and has worked for the last 50 years, and we're still trying. We're still trying to get that to work effectively. But we're getting there.
You are right.
Sure.
It's hard, right? The protocols historically haven't really existed, but as we've discussed, increasingly they're now available for publishers to follow. The ad servers like Publica have been built to help publishers and others to really construct that ad pod that looks and feels like an ad break in a traditional commercial, UK broadcaster.
The good thing is, especially because we are an ad light service, so we are an SVOD service that customers actually pay for that runs ads. We get told very, very quickly if there is a problem with frequency. I can tell you that because we get a load of emails about it. So we do fix it very quickly.
That's interesting. So in theory, right, there is a subscription for the service, but there's also a light ad load as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And what about when it comes to the monetization of your ad breaks and the role of programmatic technology? What role do you think programmatic tech can play for streaming services and TV broadcasters in the future?
Anyone outside of the big broadcasters is heavily reliant on programmatic, to be honest with you, because that's how most agencies want to trade if they're given the choice. And we don't have pre-existing like linear deals in place because we have partners who sell our linear advertising. So, but programmatic means you can surface more advertisers, which benefits your viewers because you then got obviously more breadth of the ad experience is better, right?
Of course.
And we use all types of programmatic. I know we've talked about this before. We do use open marketplace a little bit. It helps us, again, sometimes it's about making sure you've got diversity of advertisers, but it also, as a small sales team, helps us to surface advertisers, basically. So we might not know someone's in market buying. We have really high floor price. Often our open marketplace CPMs are higher than any of our other CPMs because we're using it in a really controlled way, but it does help us, for sure.
That's really interesting to hear. So from a programmatic point of view, what we're saying here is you've got the big traditional broadcasters that are increasingly leaning into programmatic, but
less increasingly, but
but they trade in a direct way with the agencies underpinned by television deals and particular TV measurement. All of the AVOD and FAST services and the SVOD ad light services that are now launching in Europe are increasingly leaning into programmatic. So a traditional service may be selling private marketplace deals, programmatic guarantee deals, but also leaning on the open exchange to surface new leads, which they would, in theory, then pass back over to their sales team for that seller to try and convert to a higher yield in PMP or PG.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really cool. And do you think more streaming services will lean into the open exchange? You think the open exchange will play a role for CTV, like it has for desktop and display? Mobile.
I think in a really just very controlled way.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't speak for how other services are using open marketplace, but I think because we are an SVOD service, we just have to be so careful about the ad experience, so we can't risk alienating anyone who's paying for a service.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. All right, that's really interesting. Thanks for that, Katie. And what about creative? So we've looked at the measurement, we looked at the frequency, we looked at the trading mechanics, and we spend a lot of time at these events talking about, the power of programmatic and data-driven advertising. But what about creative? Are you finding that people are using slightly different creatives, or are they just trying to tailor TV ads for CTV?
I think at the moment it's definitely mainly TV ads. Although something that we've been talking to our US colleagues about is, particularly in an environment where we actually want our viewers to see as few ads as possible while still making enough money. We're going to start playing around with some new formats, potentially, not new, but just like we're going to try and start talking to certain clients about premium longer formats. So like running one 90-second pre-roll and then not showing any more ads for the whole of that content stream. I think, so we do want to start talking to particular advertisers about creating more bespoke ads for that environment, but I think mainly it is TV ads. Let's be honest. Maybe shorter, like slightly shorter formats. A lot of 15s, 20s, but Yeah, they are essentially at the moment mainly TV ads.
Okay, fair enough. And what about attribution then? So if you look at the creative, trying to optimise that creative around the data that's available in CTV, when it comes to TV audiences actually purchasing things from the ads that are delivered to them, again, a lot of debate as to whether or not the QR code is going to make this fantastic comeback. And do you think all CTV ad creatives are going to carry QR codes in the future?
I really hope not. No, they're not.
Okay.
Because in that way, a CTV ad isn't any different to a TV ad in the sense that what are your campaign objectives, right? If you're brand building, you're not going to have a QR code on your ad. If you're trying to do something a bit more, I don't know, drive demand in a very specific way, you might. I mean, there's a few of us who run pause ads, so that feels like a better environment to be. That's pretty cool. To be putting a QR code, right?
So that means if I'm watching your streaming service, I pause to maybe get up and go make a cup of tea.
Yeah.
There is a full page ad on the TV screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
A static ad. We produce it in house. That's a better environment for a QR code.
Yeah.
I think probably.
Yeah.
Than a traditional TV ad.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. And what about so when it comes to trying to help brands and agencies spend more, if you was to give any agencies in a room style or brands advice when it comes to looking at CTV inventory or working with vendors on a managed CTV campaign, what kind of high-level sound bites would you offer?
Well, I mean, in an ideal world, where we're going to get to is it has all the benefits of TV with the benefits of digital, obviously, which is greater targeting, better flexibility. But I think, we need to work together as an industry to get there, to be honest with you. So there's still a little bit of work to do, but I definitely think it's, you've got to start doing it in order to learn from it. That's the reality.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would just say is it's got to start testing
it's
it.
It's like a test and learn at the moment. Okay, cool.
Especially for specific audiences.
Okay. And do you think it's again another thing we were debating right earlier around that split of CTV in several years' time? Some people say that it's going to be heavily invested with by direct response budgets. Do you think that will be the case? Will CTV become a DR environment? Because traditional television historically has been very much upper funnel. Yes, there has been performance-related ads on TV, of course, but a lot of it was about brand building at scale. Do we think now with the data and programmatic tech that's available to those on the buy side and on the sell side that this will become more of a performance channel?
No more than traditional TV, I don't think. Okay. So it will be down to those things like, DRTV works when it's either it needs to be either at the right time of day or in the right content where someone isn't 100% invested in that content, right? Yeah. And that content exists either on a traditional scheduled TV channel or in a CTV environment. And so it's all about understanding when a consumer is going to be most open to receiving that kind of advertising message. Yeah. That doesn't change. That's the same thing. So, but I think at the moment maybe a lot of DRTV brands feel that CTV, again, it depends on the publisher, is too expensive for them, right? Yeah. So I suppose again it'll be about as we become more sophisticated and we can manage that demand better and pricing better, very much like linear TV does, maybe that will open the door to more DRTV. I think at the moment it's probably seen by a lot, depending on the publisher, to be quite expensive.
Okay, so you think that's probably...
Oh, that's not good, is it?
Is that one of the main prohibitors, you think, at the moment for more performance budgets moving into CTV around price and scale? Yeah,
potentially. I mean, we were on a panel, weren't we, the other week with about 20 million other people, and there was someone on the panel who is a
performance specialist.
And they were saying a lot of their advertisers are DRTV. There's different types of inventory out there, from different publishers, and all of that inventory performs a different role. And I think that's another thing that we've chatted about before, with different price points is, again, I'm so sorry I keep banging on about traditional TV, but agencies, you have your deals in place with clients where you've got deliver specific pricing, and the way you deliver that pricing is by blending more expensive and cheaper inventory together, right? That is how you do your job. And the same will exist in CTV as it does. So there'll be some publishers who can give you inventory at a cheaper price, and others who are going to be much, much more premium. And it's how you blend that to deliver the right audience at the right price. So yeah, there's a role for everyone, right?
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Katie. I've got one other question, but rather than me asking the question, has anyone got any questions they would like to fire to Katie or myself, and we can take those for the last few minutes? If not, I've got one other question for Katie. Yeah, I can see a hand there. Hello.
Hello, lovey.
How about sponsorship models?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, we run sponsorship on
CTV.
Discovery Plus.
Yep.
And we are we're trying to use it to do exactly what we're talking about, which is extend the linear campaigns that we've got on air into the same sort of environment in Discovery Plus. It's actually harder than it sounds, but yeah, we're definitely looking at that, and we're using Audience Project to try and look at what that combined reach and frequency will be. We're doing a few tests at the moment around it. So yeah, definitely, we absolutely see a role for those partnerships. And again, from a sponsorship perspective, things like the pause ads can work really well as well, because actually then you can try and get across a more promotional message, which you can't necessarily in the sponsorship ident, because CTV is still Ofcom regulated. So you've still got a lot of the same rules and regulations with slight nuances to kind of linear TV, but yeah.
Nice, thank you, good question. Any other questions quickly? Yeah, fire away, buddy.
Oh, there's some down there, look.
Or you can shout.
I've got quite a loud voice anyway. I was going to ask, so I don't know the data behind actual people that watch TV comparatively to CTV.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the main delay in sort of where the sort of spend has been coming across, right? Because I would actually feel that watching CTV, I'm actively clicking on something to watch, whereas when I'm just watching, the TV, as soon as that comes on, I go and get a cup of tea. So I'm just wondering where the delay is there.
So the question is, the eyeballs are there in CTV, but why hasn't the ad spend caught up? I think
it's quite. I think it is, and actually there's a thing there about making it look easy. It's just so not easy still at the moment, and I think in the UK we have 3 sales houses fundamentally for TV, right? And all the systems work brilliantly. They've been in place for a long time. People know what they're buying. They know how they're buying it. None of that is in place yet for CTV. It's hugely fragmented.
Measurement as well.
Yeah, and it's just really hard to kind of prove to an advertiser what's run where, who's seen it, how many times. That's what we're all working on, but we absolutely as an industry need to work together on that much and faster. We need to get faster at trying to sort out some of this stuff.
Yeah, there's a good question here. Do you have a newfound respect for what broadcasters have made look so easy, creating quality ad breaks? Absolutely. Traditional broadcast is still a fantastic environment. It's not a question of don't spend there, spend in CTV environments or AVOD or fast environments. It's about getting incremental reach and targeting audiences where they're increasingly spending their time, and that's in those environments. But to Katie's point, ad spend isn't going to transition from traditional TV until they can measure it, target it, and optimize it in the same ways. We're increasingly doing a very good job of that in CTV, again, with OpenRTB 2.6, ad servers like Publica's and others, but we're still on that journey, if that kind of makes sense.
There is also, I know I keep banging on about scale, but if you think about the fact that, we now get barb data for Netflix, a whole series of a show on Netflix will get the same amount of viewing on a day as one show that's on Channel 4 at 8 o'clock, right? There's still that issue there as well. Traditional TV does still deliver large numbers of viewers all in one place at the same time. So there is that difference there. It's one to many and one to a couple. Because the thing about CTV is there's normally more than one person in the room, but you just don't know, right? You don't know.
Yeah. It's not that easy. And very last question quickly.
You're getting shouted at.
Right, how do you see CTV spend evolving? Open marketplace or PMP, programmatic guaranteed? In theory, both. CTV will always be transacted in deal environments. It's highly valuable inventory, but as more performance advertisers, social advertisers, search advertisers come into CTV, they want the ability to be able to dip in and out very quickly, optimize across different services, upweight and downweight, and they need a scaled and transparent open exchange to do that. So to answer that question, I think deals and open marketplace in CTV will evolve side by side. It's not one or the other.
No.
And I think we're being flashed
Good
out.
answer.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katie. Thank you very much for the questions and attending, people.
Thanks, everyone.